Have you ever wondered what really separates the winners from everyone else? Well, Napoleon Hill's classic book, Think and Grow Rich, is basically built around that one single, powerful question. For decades, people have sworn this book completely changed their lives, and today we're going to dive into exactly why. Let's break down this philosophy and see how it claims you can literally turn your thoughts into a fortune.
Okay, so here's the core premise, and you gotta admit, it's a pretty bold one. It almost sounds like magic, right? But Hill's entire philosophy is built on this very foundation. Your thoughts aren't just these little fleeting ideas floating around in your head. He argues they're tangible forces, real things that, when you focus them with enough intention, can physically reshape your reality. This right here is the starting point for absolutely everything else we're gonna talk about.
So you might be thinking, okay, that sounds nice, but is it real? Well, let's talk about a guy named Edwin Barnes. He had this one singular, all-consuming thought. He wanted to work with Thomas Edison. Not for him, with him. The problem? He had absolutely nothing. No money, no connections, not even enough cash for a train ticket. Just this one powerful idea.
So Barnes basically hops a freight train to get there, and when he shows up, Edison himself said he looked like an ordinary tramp. But he said there was something in his expression, a look that showed he was absolutely determined to get what he came for. So Barnes was willing to start anywhere, do anything, and he just never ever wavered from that one goal. And that unwavering thought, that intense desire, it eventually turned into a real partnership and made him incredibly wealthy.
Okay, so that story really sets the stage for the first major principle of this whole philosophy. Everything starts inside your own mind. Before you make a single plan or take a single action, you first have to cultivate what Napoleon Hill calls a burning desire. Now, we really need to be clear about what he means here, because this is a crucial distinction. A burning desire is not just kind of wanting something. It's not a hope. It's not a wish. Hill describes it as a keen, pulsating desire that basically becomes an obsession. This is the absolute bedrock of his entire philosophy.
And this quote, it just perfectly illustrates the level of commitment we're talking about. The idea of burning the ships is all about eliminating any possibility of retreat. When you burn your ships, you are staking your entire future on one single outcome. There is no backup plan. It's literally win or perish. And that state of mind, that's what fuels the desire. So how do you actually do this? How do you create that kind of desire? Well, Hill provides a surprisingly practical 6-step formula. This isn't just some abstract theory. It's a concrete recipe you can follow. You start by picking an exact amount of money. Be specific. Then you decide exactly what you're going to give in return. You set a firm deadline, and you create a plan you can start on right now. And finally, you write it all down, and you read it to yourself out loud every single day to burn it into your subconscious mind. And this is what that actually looks like on paper. Just notice how specific it is. An exact date, an exact amount, and a clear promise of what service will be given in return. This little written statement becomes your tool for what he calls auto-suggestion, the process of basically programming your own mind for success. All right, so having a burning desire is the fuel, right? But you still need an engine to actually move forward. That brings us to our next big section, how to turn that powerful idea into a concrete blueprint for action. Hill identifies 3 really key components for making your desire a reality. First, you need specialized knowledge, not just general info, but the specific stuff you need. Second, you use your imagination, which he calls the workshop of the mind, to shape that knowledge into a unique plan. And third, you need organized planning to turn that plan into real, concrete, actionable steps. Now, here's a really critical piece of the puzzle. You're not supposed to do this alone. In fact, Hill insists you shouldn't. He introduces this amazing concept of a mastermind alliance, a group of like-minded people all working together in perfect harmony. He believed that this collective brain power creates a kind of third mind, this synergistic force that can perfect your plans and just accelerate your progress like you wouldn't believe. Okay, so let's be real for a second. No plan, no matter how great, survives contact with reality perfectly. You're going to face obstacles, defeats are going to happen, and this is where the single most important quality for success comes into play: pure, simple persistence. Hill argues that our minds have a default setting, and if we just leave them unoccupied, they drift towards what he calls a poverty consciousness. This mindset expects failure. It believes that outside forces are in control. So what do? You have to deliberately cultivate a money consciousness, an unwavering belief that you are the master of your own fate, and an expectation that opportunity is everywhere. And persistence? Well, that's the engine that drives that consciousness forward. And there's no story that drives this point home better than the one he calls 3 Feet from Gold. It's about a guy named R.U. Darby and his uncle. They went out west, struck gold, and the dream was coming true. They bought all the machinery, started digging, and were literally hauling up valuable ore. And then, just like that, the vein of gold disappeared. It was gone. They drilled frantically, trying to find it again, but nothing. Absolutely defeated, they just gave up. They quit entirely, sold all their expensive equipment to a local junk man for pennies on the dollar, and went back home with their tails between their legs.
But here's the part of the story that will just absolutely floor you. The junk man who bought the equipment, he was a little curious, so he hired a mining engineer to check out the mine. And that engineer realized something instantly. The original miners didn't understand geology. They'd hit a simple, common thing called a fault line. The gold hadn't vanished. It was waiting just 3 feet, 3 feet from where they had stopped drilling.
You can bet Darby learned the most valuable lesson of his entire life from that experience. Success is so often just one step beyond the point where you feel completely defeated. As Hill puts it so perfectly, a quitter never wins, and a winner never quits. Okay, so after all of that, how do we put this all together? How can you actually start using this stuff? Let's distill this entire philosophy down into an immediate action plan you can start using the second this is over.
Here it is. It's that straightforward. First, you define your burning desire. What is it? Then, create your written statement using that 6-step formula we talked about. Use autosuggestion. Read it morning and night to program it into your mind. While you're doing that, start acquiring the specialized knowledge you need and build that unwavering persistence. And this last one is huge. You have to close your mind to all negative influences, whether they come from other people or from inside your own head. When you boil it all down, this entire philosophy really rests on this one incredibly powerful belief. You are not a victim of your circumstances. You have absolute control over the one thing that truly matters most, your thoughts. And by controlling your thoughts, you control your destiny. So Hill leaves us with this incredible metaphor. He says life is like a game of checkers, and your opponent is time. And time will not tolerate indecision. Every single moment you hesitate, you risk having your pieces wiped from the board. The power to create everything you desire is yours, right now. So the only question left to ask is, will you make the start?